What up, everybody? Scuff D here. Well, unstable table. It's an unstable table. We are doing a deck list today, as promised a couple days ago when I was doing the updates. Talking about some decks I've been playing, having a lot of fun with, stuff to share with the community. It's a neutral warlord. It's Tacitus Proctor, ladies and gentlemen. Tacitus Proctor. Now, this may or may not be a surprise. This could come as a surprise to many. I've been playing Tacitus Proctor not too often. I think generally he was just one of those warlords that I just never got a chance to play around. I think I played like 2 or 3 games with him as part of the newer challenges. Put in play Mechanicum troops, put in play vehicles. That's it. It was pretty consistent. I was like, okay, this is easy to do because he covers both of those bases, right? For 1 energy, he puts in a servo automata, which is a vehicle and a mechanicum troop. But with the introduction of forbidden protocols, I decided to tweak it a little bit and make it actually a little bit more serious. And I've had some really fun results, surprising results. I mean, I'd probably say I played about 20 games. 17 of those 17 wins are all following the revision of the deck. Prior to that, like I said, I had a handful in there for the challenges, so I think I probably played about 20 games of him so far. 17 out of 20 feels pretty good. So yeah, so I've had some fun times with him, and I want to show you the games, kind of talk about the deck, give you the highlights, as it were. But first, let's break down what he does, right? So, as I mentioned, he puts in play a servo automata for 1 energy, which is a vehicle. It's a mechanicum troop. And then his relentless is giving +1/+1 to your vehicles in play. That's all of your vehicles, which is significantly... It's nice, but this is a downgrade from what his was before, which was a resolution effect that the adjacent vehicles got +1/+1. Or was it resolution? All vehicles get +1/+1. Either which way, his ability got downgraded because relentless is harder to trigger. Your stuff has got to stick around, and because it's got to stick around, you've got to build to keep it around. However, once he gets steamrolling, it's very easy to whip out some devastating damage and have some very powerful boards. And as I said, with the addition of Forbidden Protocols, which is just this wonderful... Where is it? Just to go into the 3 energy card. This card here, yeah, this thing here giving powerful random buffs to a friendly vehicle. And when most of your troops are vehicles, this is going to be a very easy to play card. And lo and behold, it is. So it was just a matter of figuring out how to best maximize and use this, but there's a couple of key things to keep in mind as well. First, I want to show you a replay, and then we'll break down the deck, because I really think the deck is important. There's some cards in there that's just not just mindless vehicles. I mean, you're wrong. I mean, there's some where it's like, yeah, why wouldn't I put this in here? But there are some where it's like, there's a reason why cards were chosen. And I think generally most people who are going to build a serious Proctor deck are going to kind of follow along the same lines, but you should know why they do so. So let's take a look at a game, and we'll come right back. Okay, so now this game here, this is against Vulcan, which, quite frankly, is not a match in Proctor's favor. Vulcan, especially if he's going desperate defense, he's going to generate steam. He's going to gain steam. His troops having Survivor, having Sacrifice, having hard removals such as Scorched Earth or Ashen Blow, I think it is. That's very powerful, right? That's hard to overcome. So it's really a trudgy game. And because Vulcan has got that Survivor, he's got a Reckoning that can keep on keeping him alive. He's gonna have the long game in his favor. As I said, this game is not in my best interest, but we're doing what we can here. Now, I've got the Cybernetica Cortex, which is nice to give. This is just a solid 2 energy card that gives your vehicles a +2/+2. They lose the effect that you can control them. They're going to gain attack by itself at the start of your turn, which can lead it to attack things predictably. However, sometimes that +2/+2 is all you need to make it a brute, either keep it out of Melgator range or overcome a nasty frontline troop. Whatever the case is, you're going to have some options. You saw me use that 3-cost troop. It's a lower cost. It's a disposable troop. He's just going right now for the ramp. He's going for asteroid belts. So I know the clock is ticking. So far at 7, him going into 7 energy with only 6 health down, not a great spot for me to be at, right? So we're gonna just do what we have to do. We got to keep pumping out vehicles every turn and getting them stronger. And that's a smart play on his end. As I was really hoping to keep that Romu alive a little bit longer. I was a little surprised why he went with that, but I'll take it. Have that 4 get strong, and we'll start dropping bombs. It's really nice, Proctor's ability for vehicles like Helios Mortar Carrier. Here comes the Desperate Defense on 8 energy even, so this is not looking great. Solid vehicle. Anytime you get a vehicle with shield and frontline, that's sad. It's a sad face moment. My vehicles are strong, but it's hard to overcome something like that. How am I going to do it? Will I do it? Well, let's see. Let's see what time tells, shall we? Yeah, we're going to go all in there. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this guy here, the Macrotech Aegis here, because he synergizes with 90% of the troops. And you see, this is where I think he makes a misplay. I could be wrong. I think he went for the body and not the vehicle that was going to get stronger. I don't know if he didn't realize that the vehicle would continue to get strong, and I had options at my disposal. I really do like the these automata later on in the game, because even if they're 1/1s that turn into 2/2s, you can choose not to use them and create Mechanics in your hand. I'll show you a few troops that I've got in the deck which really require the Mechanics. And this is a swing and a miss for him with the Father Decay, which, I mean, the more of these servo automata, the more the servers that you kill, the more you're just going to create. So you're not gaining anything here, buddy. You're going to actually strike out hard with the servos, and that's okay. I'm going to add to that. I'm going to increase his tally, and he's got a demon that has a high maintenance value, so that's going to be painful for him. He can get 3 troops a turn, but if he's getting 3 1/1s, I think he was really banking on getting better things. Again, swing and a miss, so I'm okay with that. And my hand size is not looking great, right? I'm playing really with just my ability and 1 vehicle a turn, maybe a support card. There are some options for him to have in his deck, for Proctor to have in his deck. But I really think you just need to know what your options are. And that's what, here's an example where I'm just creating the Mechanics, because I know down the road I'm going to have some troops. I've got a poisonous troop, so whatever he throws at me, if it doesn't die, is going to die. That thing's going to get stronger. I've made him use his second Ashen Bones, so now I can bring out some more big boys. And I'm sure he's kicking himself for all these servos, and at this point probably figures that Father Decay is no good. He's no good to me dead. And at this point I was really surprised. I mean, we still have got a long ways to go. He could still easily pull out a second desperate defense on this next turn. But I've got a pretty big hand coming here with some troops. I've got his board cleared. I'm up on him in terms of health-wise, at least by 9. I've got a 9-point health lead. I feel pretty good. It's a smart move to stun that vehicle. The change to resolution on Eta Kappa, much better. Made him a very strong vehicle. Absolutely. Keep that health up. Takes him out of lethal range unless he decides to attack with that and use his shield. So I'm going to pop his shield. If he does, he's going to lose that vehicle. And then he goes for the ability there, which I don't know. That's probably the best hit that he could hit, but that really cost him the ability to use a desperate defense. So if he doesn't have a desperate defense in hand, then that would explain why he did that. Sabotage the vehicle that really only had a +1/+1. I think at this point it felt like he was grasping for straws. So I'm just going to push with whatever I've got and hope for the best. Get more and more vehicles out. He can't kill everything, right? I mean, that's the theory. Like, he could, if he pulls a desperate defense out here, then there's nothing I can do about that. But I could probably play around it depending on what he's throwing down, but that's about it. Strong play, another good vehicle. This game is going long, and every turn that it goes, as I said, this game is not in my favor. You could say he's got bad draws. He definitely had bad Father Decay luck, but he really didn't have bad Father Decay luck considering how many servos were killed over the course of the game. I mean, that the odds were very high that that's exactly what he was going to get. We top decking? I don't think so. Now, do we top deck with the next card? Let's find out. He's got to play his Reckoning to survive, so he, again, not playing Desperate Defense. He's got to... At this point, I was like, okay, maybe he doesn't have a full deck build or something. I just felt like he's off. I wouldn't play that card. And I've got plenty of health to be fine taking a bunch from him with his dreadnoughts. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I just took a lot of damage there, but this is game. And it's just consistent and plotting use. And that's really how you play Proctor. I mean, you can play him a little reactive depending on your troop selection, but it is consistently wearing down your opponent with your troops. And let's take a look at the deck here. So I really want to break down and kind of explain why I've got in here. A lot of it is going to be kind of your usual suspects. Rotau is important. This is a great turn 1 play. It's not the only turn 1 play, but it is a great turn 1 play. Because if you play him, and then you've got the counterattack, because 9 times out of 10, Proctor with his low initiative is going to get the counterattack for the Mechanicum. He's going to gain 1 energy, so he can then use his ability to put in play a second vehicle. You've got 2 vehicles, your opponent can get rid of 1. That Rotau is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. You can follow that up with a Cybernetic Cortex on your next turn, or you could play down like a... use your ability, and then you can play the Delta Psi 02, and then suddenly you've got a 3/3 front line, and you've got that 1/1 vehicle that's going to get stronger every turn. Those are your typical good turn 1 plays. You could also play Abandoned Supplies, and then use your use the counterattack vehicle. I have 1 technical servitors in here, and I'll tell you why I do. Because there is a play that you could easily play. As I said, you could play your ability, you could use your counterattack, you could get the Delta Psi out, and then you could throw down technical servitors, all in turn 1. And technical servitors is really cool. If you manage to make them stick, your next vehicle costs 2 less for a deck that is built on vehicles. It's very, very powerful. Now, they aren't going to survive often. Usually these guys are bait. And that's why I use them too, because they work really well as bait, because then your opponent has to choose, do I get rid of this 1-1 that's going to turn into a 2-2, and then a 3-3 and 4-4 and blah, 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 blah? Or do I get rid of this 1-1 tactical servitors who is going to maybe bring out something bigger on the next turn? It's a gamble for them. And guess what? Either which way, I win. Because if they can't kill them both, I get a troop that's going to get stronger that they got to focus on the next turn, or I get a vehicle coming out cheaper. I've got Svarog in here. Now these guys, as you saw that last game, they're okay. The Relentless receiving 2 damage is slightly counteracted by Proctor giving them +1/+1. So if these guys are untouched, they're a 4/5, they will lose 2 health, so they become a 4/3. Proctor makes them a 5/4, which basically gives them 1 more action to attack. Not going to survive beyond that. They're Catholics that have been broken down and worn out. There are better ones out there, but I focus on getting a cheap early board, as you can see here with all the 2s and 4s, right? 2 through 4 drops, and then really wearing my opponent out because they cannot pass on any of these vehicles. And by the time they exhaust a lot of resources on those vehicles, late game, you bring out the things like the Helios Mortar character, Chaimu, Eta Kappa, Doombringer, etc., etc. Forbidden Protocols, we talked about that a lot. Jukebox Starsight just as a natural fit in here. Abandoned Supplies is good for every card, aside from drawing a technical servitors. Anything you can get here. If I can get a Doombringer at 6 energy, Earthsea at 5, Gamma at 3, there's no loss. There's no loss. Every card, especially these high-cost vehicles, is going to garner me even more power as they accumulate stats from Proctor. Cybernetic Cortex, again, I just have 1 of those. I took out 1. I had 2 in there before, but I took out 1 for the Forbidden Protocols, because that is really all you need. Then, we're going to take a look at a couple of these troops that may or may not make sense to you. So I've got Last Howl in here, which is a non-vehicle troop. This is an infantry, but he gives all Mechanicum troops +1/+1, which is the majority of the troops I have in the deck, right? If you're looking at the troops in the deck here, I think the only ones I've got the Philesian and the Mortar Carrier are Imperial Army, so it feels like a natural fit. Right off the bat, he's making all my other guys +1/+1 in addition to Proctor. You saw that in the game that we showed against Vulcan. Very powerful. Vorax is a flanker, very powerful. You could put him down, and your opponent, if they can't touch him, he's a 4/4 with Bloodthirst. That's 8 damage if they're untouched. And you throw down a Forbidden Protocols, maybe they get Ward or Survivor, they become even nastier. It's just a solid choice. There's Guitari Protector in there as a frontline option. He's also another infantry. I have a few infantry units, and they're very key, and that's why I don't mind the Automata creating a couple Mechanics for me, because late game, it's entirely possible that I can turn that Guitari Protector into a beast with 2 or 3 Mechanics that I've created from, low power servos. The same thing goes for Last Howl or the Macrotech Engineer. Now, I just have 1 of these guys, and I don't play him when I don't have multiple vehicles. Sometimes I played him in a couple games where I've had like 1 vehicle that I want to shield, and it's enough to destroy the big troop. Macrotech Engineer is really undersung. It's overcost. It's got 6 cost, but it's got solid stats. It's 5/6 infantry. Giving shield to your vehicles when you have 3 or 4 vehicles on the table is huge, even if they're low powered troops, 2/2s, 3/3s, 5/5s, whatever. If they gain shield, 5/5 is not low powered, but if they gain shield, they can attack, take no damage, destroy troops, deal damage to the opponent's warlord, and you have lost no momentum. You have lost nothing. As a matter of fact, you've escalated even further, because now your opponent has to deal with the Macrotech Engineer on the table, as well as all those full health troops that are going to get stronger on your next turn. 2 Macrotechs I found was too much. 1 is just sufficient, but you have to play it smart. You just have to know when to play it. And it really is one of those cards where I've found there have been so many games. I believe you saw it in that last game there where the opponent throws down some big units. They're like, all right, well, there's no way they're going to get past that. Or they're going to have to blow their big Doombringer troop to get rid of this one troop here. But if my Doombringer has shield, then suddenly I don't lose anything, and they've lost that perceived advantage. So this is a really nice card in this deck when you play it correctly. At 10 energy, if you really want to get creative and crafty, if you have to, you can throw it down with a Vorax and give Vorax a shield, so you've got a shield 3/3 with flank and bloodthirst, so you can actually deal 6 damage to a troop that would normally kill him on the first attack. So that's something to think about too. Mortar Carrier is a solid choice. Gamma Theta, these guys are really nice as far as front lines go. They're very intimidating. They will never get Melgatored unless your opponent sabotages them. And if that's the case, they're really in a bad state of affairs. This guy's going to be a 6/4. If your opponent doesn't get rid of him, he's going to get +1/+1 every turn. You're going to have a beast of a front line. Chai-Mu is really great for removing poison, because poison can affect your big beefy stuff. But also healing is nice, and it's a vehicle. Like, it's a win across all 3 things. You saw Eta Kappa. Again, I just have one of them because I found that at 6 cost, these stats are powerful, and this can easily be counteracted. His resolution effect is easily counteracted by 1 energy from Tacitus Proctor creating a troop, or he can always create that troop. So at 7 energy, boom, you got a 1/1, you've got an 8/7. Or just the fact that you are probably already going to have 2 or 3 troops already on the board that are stealthed, like the Feliz in 5th or Ro Tau. And then you've got not only these stealth troops that are going to get stronger, but now your opponent has to deal with this big one that isn't stealthed. Urtzi, just a solid hard removal, destroyed a vehicle, and Doombringer. Now, there are arguments to be made for a couple key cards to be included or changed out, but this is what I've been playing. This is what I've settled on, and it is consistent. And I enjoy it. I like it a lot. I'm going to show you another game here, and we will talk about the cards that you could include in it, I suppose. And then, yeah, let's take a look at 2 games, and then we'll take a look at other options that you could switch into the deck, as far as, and also what weaknesses this deck has and where kind of the hard matchups are. Okay, so here we've got a game against Korbaks. We just talked about how poison can affect my vehicles. I've got a good starting hand here. I've got Jubak, which against Runestorm is a 50-50 thing. But I've got the Rotau, I've got Svarog, I've got Counterattack. I feel okay. With this matchup, going into it, I'm thinking, okay, Korbaks, every turn he can just poison a troop. So if I'm just relying on having 1 troop on the board that is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, he can just kill it with his poison ability. He can force me to blow it. So I have got to have more than 1 troop on the board every turn. Like, that's just what I have to do. However, in this game, he opens up with the mutations out the gate. So then I think, well, maybe that's not the play I need to go with. Maybe I need to force something a little bit different here, break his mutation focus, put some pressure on, and we'll see how this goes. And with Korbaks, I mean, Runestorm in general is going to be built mainly one way, but Korbaks' ability, again, he is a long-term ability. He's a long warlord. He can't use Desperate Defense, but he can use the Summoning Portal or Summoning Rift or whatever it is that he can use and utilize to pull out like 3 demons that have died over the course of the game. And if he's lost a lot of high-cost demon frontline units, then you're really in the thick of it. He's got that gaining health, and as I said, that losing the poison, like creating poison on stuff, that hurts. So he's got a gnarly Editon. Did I say that right? Is it Elatil? He's got a gnarly Elatil. Now, Laz Ta'ul, in conjunction with Proctor, can add some extra life to Sevarog, which is nice. Put some pressure out there. That's an option. So wait, that's one way to go about it, right? And I was surprised he went that way. I think he went for the cheap troop, and he was hoping I'll just keep this guy alive longer and I won't lose anything. And maybe that's what he was going for. I'm not really sure. We got one more turn to use him. I'm going to make it count. I'm going to use the protocols here. See if I get like a cleave or something. Okay. I'll take that. And he's not poisoned. Now, if he was poisoned with that Survivor 1, it wouldn't be great, but he's not. So, sure. Let's force the issue. Let's get crazy. Now I've got his Elatil, and I'm hoping to be able to use his Elatil against him. It's crazy enough, it just might work. Right? It's alright. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna lose that Survivor vehicle anyways. And with that Survivor, he actually got one more use than anticipated. Like, otherwise, I would have lost him that turn. Again, Forbidden Protocols changed the entire power structure of this deck. It really did. It created a deck that is way more powerful than I would have anticipated or thought it could be. And I don't mind that. I think it's not a complaint. He's going to focus on the vehicle that he can, which is good. And see, I guess somewhere along the way, in pacing this game, he put down big troops. He can't use his ability to poison all my troops, and he decided to attack instead and play one troop. I don't think that's a terribly wrong idea, but I think in shifting his focus, that might have given me the edge that I didn't have before. Maybe he's thinking he'll throw down a front line. I'm not sure. Yeah, he's going with the frontline troop. That's okay. We've got vehicles with reach. We have got vehicles with reach. I don't have any in my hand right now, but I'm gonna try to get some. Now I know that he's got this ability, which is really powerful. So putting down a Gamma Theta is a bad move here when he can just destroy it and then play one on his own. So I'm going to put a 5 health troop on there, as well as remove the stealth and really put the pressure up. And he can have my automata, my servo. I'm just going to call it servos. He can have my servo. That's a strong board. Proctor's looking pretty sad. That's all we needed right there was a flanker. Boom, take out that front line, and a strike. And again, this is a game where it was on a state, it was on a verge for Proctor. The argument could be made. We'll take a look at one more deck, and I'll tell you what arguments could be made. Now, the argument could be made for a little bit more card draw here. Now, this game is against Perturabo, which, I mean, I shouldn't have to say. I feel like Perturabo is a strong warlord out the gate. His performance on Terra the last 3 months has been stellar. His ability, as well as his Legion, is really a perfect counter to this playstyle. Vehicles, troops, low health troops that are susceptible to viral bombs or precision bombardments. And if he can keep up a direct damage on my warlord, regardless of any frontline I've got, I'm in a bad state, right? My game gets stronger the later the game goes for Proctor. But if my health gets lower, the lethal range for the Iron Warriors is massive. It's very big. It should not be overlooked. In the meantime, he's plugging away at that precision bombardment, which is okay. I mean, I'd rather him get those out of his hand for those troops, so that I can play other troops, right? We're going to go with the Tau, and we're going to go with ability, and just kind of see if we can bait out anything, right? Because I have a feeling he's got the 10th company, or the, what's his face? No, he doesn't. He's got the Rack and Ruin, the little 2/2s. Usually those guys are great at getting rid of the rows, the stealthy guys. He doesn't have that, which is great. That's going to buy me a turn. But I'm 8 health down, so I gotta make something of it, right? He could very easily, and I knew with this, he could very easily do a viral bombs on that turn, wipe my entire board out, and he'd still be up 8 health. As it is, I'm now down 13 health. These games go. And here is a prime example of where he thinks, okay, well, you'll have to deal with my Predator. Okay, I'll do that. I've got a shielded unit. I'm going to deal 6 on your Warlord. And all my vehicles stay alive. And now we bring it back down a little bit. He's still up by 8. But I've got 4 units on the table. He's got a pretty big frontline unit there. Okay, that might cost me a couple units. That's fine. We'll make it work. We've got strong troops. We've got frontline troops coming out here. We can make this count. Hopefully kill some of the... yeah, I figured he had like maybe a Contrador in there, precision bombardment, maybe even a Perturabo's Rage. Let's get rid of those things. That's what Edict is for. I didn't mention Edict of Censure is in the deck, and I play very few tactics. A lot of the damage, the widespread damage, is done by the vehicles, or by just having consistent vehicles that your opponent has to throw troops at, as opposed to putting them at your Warlord. I find they're better that way. Now we are up, and we're gonna press the advantage, as Netmator would say, and that is game. And that is Perturabo. So, with Proctor, now there's certainly I don't have a Knights game. I don't have a game against Corswain here to show you. I haven't played him with Proctor, but against Perturabo, against Desperate Defense Vulcan, and against Corvax of the Ruinstorm, this deck, those are just 3 games I have to show you, and I can tell you that this deck has faced other decks. It's faced Karn, Angron, Alfarius, like a Sirius Alfarius deck. Also, it's faced Sanguinius. I mean, I'm just trying to pull like the more recent games out of my head. This is a good, surprisingly powerful deck, and I think Forbidden Protocols helps in some of those games, and just tighten it up. Yeah, so if there's only 5 tactics in here, it is troop heavy, and every turn, whether it's with his ability or with playing troops from your hand, you're playing troops, and that really is what keeps the pressure going. Now, let's talk about cards that you could choose to change out or include it here, because this deck by no means is perfect. It just is what's working for me. If you want to be a little more serious with it, take it elsewhere, go higher. You want to watch your balance of vehicles to troops. You could get rid of technical servitors and make that Lectitio Divinatus, or supply lines if you want to. You could change supply lines for abandoned supplies and just focus on drawing those vehicles for cheap, as opposed to drawing any of your cards for cheap. You could go that route. Absolutely fine. You could add in the second Cybernetic Cortex. No problem there. You could throw in an Asteroids Belt. Sure, there's nothing wrong about that. I've seen people play with the Castellix here, these 4/5 guys. Now these guys attack by themselves at the start of the turn. They don't take this Relentless. They cost 1 more but they don't have the drawback to taking damage. That's okay. That's not a bad choice maybe over one or two of the cards I've already got on here, or you could just straight up sub out the Svarog. But as I said, I like to keep the pressure up early on my opponent, and that's just my personal choice. I don't think there's a wrong choice here. I don't fully like giving control to the attack by itself at the start of your turn, because especially early on, it's very easy for your opponent to play around that. I don't know if there's a perfect answer for that, but you could throw those guys in there. I really would like to get Delta Omega in, but it's a high cost for what it does. And at the 5 energy, I'm really looking for front lines for Proctor, because he is a squishy boy and he needs that. Death of Innocence, though, is one of those cards that you could consider. Instead of Edict, if you were putting in a few more tactics in your deck, you could take Edict out and put in Death of Innocence, because every troop that you're putting into play with his ability, his servos, they're going to come out as a 1/1, then they're going to gain a Mark of Chaos, making them anywhere between a 1/3 poisonous to a 2/2 unstoppable. Whatever it is, they're going to get stronger. Maybe they'll get terror. Just nasty. That's just the cheap guys. That's not talking the actual troops that you're playing from your hand. So that is a card. I don't think Forge Complex for Proctor is good, though. There is a difference there between Death of Innocence and Forge Complex. Forge Complex is a good card for most long-term warlords, because it gives you options. I think the options for Proctor need to be in your deck, and your pressure needs to be consistent. And at 5 energy, if you're not playing a troop, you're going to lose momentum. You're going to lose steam. And this is giving up valuable momentum. Death of Innocence is giving up momentum to some degree, but you can play it and still play a card on the same turn and gain the ability right out the gate. Like if it's 6 energy, you play Death of Innocence and use Proctor's ability, you gain the benefit right away. Whereas 6 energy, you play Forge of Complex, and then you just play a 1/1 servo, you gain nothing. So in this deck, I would rank Death of Innocence higher. And then like Tagamata, if you're going with Death of Innocence, Tagamata is very nice. I've seen people play with Maniple Gamamu, these guys here, much in the same way that Gamma Theta gets stronger as a frontline. These guys are cool, but not cool enough for me. For 7 energy, I want my stuff to be attacking. I want it to have meaningful impact. I want to destroy things. I would rather have a Vulturax, which is not a bad choice. I mean, Vulturax for Proctor is not bad. It's a 5/8 flanker. Boom. Yes, it's got a backlash, but on my next turn, it's going to become +1/+1, which is going to prolong its life. I like that. That's a possibility. Vulturax is easily a possibility if you don't have Earthsea in there. Consider Vulturax, or even if you don't have Macrotech Industry, or you don't want to go that route, consider Vulturax as for just having that quick impact. You do have to play those carefully, though. And then obviously you could go with a second Doombringer. Coriel Zeth is a good card. However, the vehicles are so high ratio in Proctor, it's hard to fit in some infantry troops. I don't think you could go wrong with Coriel Zeth, but I do think you have to consider at late game, would you rather put out Coriel Zeth, who is a promising threat, or would you rather put out a couple vehicles who are threats, but guaranteed to get bigger and bigger and bigger and work with many more things in your deck? I don't know. It's a toss-up. I don't think you'll kick yourself for having Coriel Zeth in your deck. It's a strong card. Love that art, by the way. This is one of the few John Blanche arts I really dig. John Blanche has got a style. I recognize it, but I don't dig it. Coriel Zeth, I dig. Telemot, I dig. The Primarch stuff he did? No. I'm going to pass. That's a hard pass. And that's it for the Mechanicum side. You could put in, like if I said, if you're putting in more tactics, Command Bridge, Lactitio, Divinatus is not a bad option. Maybe a Silent Death in there as well. You've really got a lot of anti-stealth with Skitarii Protector as well as Ro. Ro Tau has got this built-in anti-stealth. That's why they're just really good. So you've got a lot of anti-stealth in your deck already. It's just a matter of figuring out some cards that are going to help synergize. Kai isn't bad, but you want to be using your ability. I would rather use Proctor's ability to create things that my opponent has to throw resources at than Kai's Elaine's ability that might give me something that I can use later on. It's a different dynamic. It's a different turn momentum with Proctor. And maybe Malkiel as an infantry, maybe that can help you ramp if you don't have Asteroid Belt. I talked about supply lines, and that's really it. I don't feel like there's a ton of other powerful options. Lernia Hydra, I guess. Lernia Hydra is a good choice, right? Like a one of. Like if you don't have Doombringer, Earthsea, Lernia is okay. I wouldn't include two of them, but one of them is nice. It also kind of helps with that anti-tactic theme. So those are some options. Now, the thing with this deck is it is susceptible to a few other deck types out there. Mandragorax, that can just constantly hit both Proctor and your troops for turn. When I play Mandragorax, I eat Proctors for breakfast. You eat bowls of Proctor for breakfast? No. That was a bad throwback to Happy Gilmore. It was not a good reference if you got the reference. But if you didn't, that's my fault. But that is just not a matchup in favor of Proctor. He can't keep stuff on the board, and by the time he gets out his higher cost things, typically the Mandragorax has got other widespread things: defensive satellites, mortar strikes, artillery strikes, sabotage, whatever. So that's a hard game. Also, losing momentum to an Astalin build can be problematic. Because Astalin can get a lot of those little cheap Jaegers out and can keep pressure going. Zahariel can as well, but Zahariel's low health can be a problem, and he loses. He'll have Terrorsight, but he'll lose the counterattack because you'll have the counterattack, which means that your high-cost vehicles he's going to have to face strike with Terror Strike to get rid of. That is nice. And if you make him do that early on, and then you still throw out a Doombringer or a Helios Mortar Carrier or something like that, then Doombringer in that game wipes out Jaegers, but you've got to get to eat energy. And sometimes it's very hard if Astalin can get out a local uprising right out the gate. Maybe an Aspirants of the Order or Strategic Mastery on 2 or 3 Jaegers that are already out there. That can be a tricky match. Also, shouldn't make anybody surprised, Sons of Horus can be problematic. They've got splash damage, they've got quick fire, they've got troops that can kill troops right off the bat. Well, not when they're played in hand, but the Kaban squad. And then they've got direct damage, like the Chariot of the Gods and the Vengeful Spirit to finish things off. So that shouldn't be a surprise that the Sons of Horus can be a power force. Just a second here. So those are probably the hard matchups I can think of. If you play it smart, you can outpace Kurz, you can really corner him in, you've got anti-stealth, and you can just hit him hard and heavy. That's a very cagey game, and you have to play it carefully. You can definitely take out the steam from Word Bearers. I've had some really fun games with it, I gotta say, and it's surprising, and I want to share that with you because not every deck needs to be the same decks. And if you want to try something different and you've always been looking at Proctor, a couple key cards, a couple smart plays, and consistently forcing your opponent to respond to your troops will really make the day. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's inspired you. If you like the video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe to the channel and pass this along. Keep the word out. Help me break the YouTube algorithm. I'm looking to hit 800 subs by the end of August, by the end of summer 2021. And if this video is something that you enjoyed and you've been using Proctor as well, you want to give me your tips or cards that you've also found that work for him very well, let me know in the comments. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. So until next time, guys, keep playing Legions, and I'll talk to you later.